Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday morning, December 16th, I believe, and we are amazingly 10 selling days away from the end of the year. Today, we were supposed to have a guest. However, the guest let me know that his Christmas party is conflicting with it. And of course, when he said that, I said, bah humbug. You said you were going to be here, but he's not. So today what we're going to do is a goal setting exercise because we've only got a couple of weeks left till the end of the year and it's time to take a look at 2023. Before I get into the 2023 goal setting exercise though, I'd like to give you a little piece of advice. We have 10 selling days left. It's pretty much time to just relax and coast to the end of the year. No, that's not it at all. That's not my advice. My advice is you've still got 10 selling days left. Now, if you've blown away your quota and you've made more money than you need to, be my guest, sit around, do nothing, drink drinks, eat bonbons, whatever you're going to do for the rest of the year and coast into 2023. But if you have not blown away your quota or you have not made enough money, I urge you to not give up now. Now is a great time to call every prospect that told you they were going to think it over during the year. Most of them probably didn't, and most of them probably aren't interested, but you may find one or two who are ready to buy. The second thing, and I posted this yesterday in the group, this is a great time of year if you're dealing with a certain type of company that creates budgets. If you're dealing with SMBs, you might not be talking to this kind of company, but large organizations certainly have budgets set aside for certain things. Like in my world, they set aside a budget for training for the year. But here's what happens. If they did not use their budget, then what happens is they lose it and they'll get less budget next year. So if they had $100,000 set aside this year for their budget and they only used 80, next year they're only getting 80. And people want to keep their budgets. So you can contact them and let them know if they have budget to dump. It's called dumping the budget. If they have budget to dump, you'd be happy to invoice them now, take their cash into your hot little pockets and hold it until they need you for next year for whatever product or service you offer, in my case, training. And this has worked way more than once. Way more than once. I've sent out emails to a bunch of my prospects and clients, said, if you have budget to dump, now's the time to do it. And I have had people respond, oh, that would be great. I would love to. Here's $25,000, here's $30,000 or $40,000. Please hang on to it. We'll use it up during the year. Well, the beautiful thing about that is A, you're closing a deal, and B, you've already got their money, so you know they're going to buy from you next year. They've already bought, you just haven't delivered. So that's great advice, and it's certainly worth a shot for many of you. But you do not want to coast at this point in the year because A, you can close business, and B, the other thing, which is just as important, is unless you're in an amazingly transactional sale where you talk to somebody and they do a one-call close or you deliver very quickly, anything you do right now, you're setting up your Q1 anyways. Like for selling sales training, many of you know I'm a sales coach and trainer. I help companies and individuals increase their sales. Our tagline is measurable and sustainable sales increases, and I work with people all over the world. Well, people need, boy, oh boy, when you get to this age, I was talking to you and I just forgot my point. Ben Gibbs, good to see you here, my friend. And he says, Jeff, my goal for 2022 was still made with you, and he hit my goal. Of course, Ben hit his goal. Bravo. And it has nothing to do with me. It's because Ben is an outstanding salesperson who works some more. So my point was, you can still close business by the end of the year, and you can also set up your Q1, because in my world, selling sales training, of the 4 services I sell, that's what I was trying to say to you guys. Sometimes the thoughts come in and they go right back out. But in my world, it takes 8 weeks to close a training deal on average. Sometimes people close very quickly. Sometimes it takes years, but the average is 8 weeks. Well, that means if I start speaking to people in the next 2 weeks, it's not going to close till February anyways. So you want to keep going, keep your nose to the grindstone, unless you've got plenty of money and you don't need any more. So keep at it. There's still time to close business. By the way, I forgot to say, if you're watching us live, if you're watching me live today, please do say hello in the comments. I'm going to share my screen in a minute and put up a PowerPoint presentation, so I won't be able to see the comments until the end, but I will come back, take a look at the comments in case you have any questions or anything like that. And Steve Kent, good morning to see you. Good to see you, my friend. By the way, if you're watching on Facebook and you have not connected your account to StreamYard and you have a question or you want to say hi, all I'm going to see is Facebook user, so please include your name. And with that, wait a minute. Hold on. Dr. Rich Atkins says, sounds like on your computer ambient mic, not the big one, honking one on the right. All right. Well, let's see. Hang on. Let me see if I can switch. I actually am on the big honking one on the right, but somebody told me just yesterday that there was an issue with that. Let's try the other mic. Dr. Rich, how are we doing now? Tell me, I just switched microphones. Tell me if that's any better, please. Somebody's telling me I can find love in my city tonight. Well, thank you very much. Triple X 2.5. And happy Friday to you, Lisa Leviton. Oh boy, we're having a lot of fun today. All right, Rich, let me know if my mic's working okay. I'm hoping you guys can still hear me. I'm seeing meters go up and down, so hopefully this is working better. So give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get into some goal setting. They changed it here. Let's see. All right. Messing with my head, these guys. Here we go. All right, boys and girls. So this is goal setting to set up your 2023 for the Sales Pro Network and all ships at sea. The question I'm often asked is, who am I and who am I to talk about goal setting? You're a sales coach, Jeff. You're a sales trainer. Well, just so happens I'm not only a sales coach and trainer, but I've co-authored a book on setting and achieving goals called How to Be Your Own Coach. I wrote this with my co-author and dear friend and mentor, Steve Bookbinder. We wrote this book while he was training to swim the English Channel. And we used the things that he did to accomplish that goal and put them into this book. By the way, one of the interesting things about Steve swimming the English Channel was he hates cold water and he hates jellyfish. And what do you got in the English Channel? Jellyfish and cold water. So Steve is a guy who, when he puts his mind to something, he just does it. And that's what this book was based on. And everything I'm going to share with you today mostly is taken from this book. Why should you set goals? Well, the clear thing is you have to have some place where you're trying to get to if you expect to get there. In his brilliant book, Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and I believe it was originally written sometime in the mid-50s. There's a newer version that came out about 5 or 6 years ago, an updated version. But he says, and I think this is great, he says we were all born to be successful. In fact, he says you are born with a success mechanism in your brain. In other words, we pop out of the womb to be successful. You're already set up to do that. But your success mechanism, Dr. Maltz says, your success mechanism has to have something to focus on. Otherwise, it's just sitting there wasting time. Well, what does it focus on? On your goals. Exactly right. If you have goals, that's something that your success mechanisms can focus on. So why should we set goals? Because if you don't, you're just wandering aimlessly. You're tossing stuff up in the air and hoping that it lands. Well, I don't know about you, my friends, but in terms of money, I need to be a little less haphazard. You've probably heard me say before, I've got 3 kids in college. One will graduate in the spring, then the other 2 the following year. But I still got debts to take care of, bills to take care of. I've got an ex-wife who has to get paid every month, got to take the dog to the vet. We all have things that we have to do. So why set goals? Because if you don't, you're not going to achieve them unless you believe in luck. And I believe that the harder you work, the luckier you get. So what's step 1? The first step is, by the way, if you'd like to take out a piece of paper and actually go through this exercise with me, that would be a very smart thing to do as far as I'm concerned. As your sales coach, I'm suggesting take out a piece of paper and a pen right now. Now, you can go to my website and under the resources tab, you can download the sheet that I'm showing you. And it's actually a bunch of pages. I think it's about 16 pages long, and it covers setting goals in a bunch of different areas of your life, like spiritual goals, relationship goals. We're just going to focus on financial goals today because that's what we salespeople are about. How do we make some money and feed our families and support our lifestyle? So the first thing about your goal is you have to have it written down. If you don't have it written down, I suggest it's not real. We want to make it as real as we possibly can. And when you write something down, it becomes more real. I suggest you want to be able to focus on it consistently, which means you want to post your goals in various places throughout your house. I have my goals posted right behind this monitor and camera that I'm looking into so I can stare at them constantly. I also have my goals posted in both my bathrooms. And you may wonder, Jeff, why would you want your goals in your bathroom? Well, here's why. For me, at least, the bathroom is the first place I go every morning. I could be brushing my teeth and washing my face and doing all the other things I do in the morning.
looking in the mirror, my goals are right next to it. I can be looking at my goals first thing in the morning. They're sinking into my brain and setting up my day to go achieve them. And the bathroom is also the last place I go every night. So once again, you're staring at your goals and you're implanting them into your brain. Many of you, I assume, have heard of subliminal tapes. They used to be very popular, subliminal CDs, where you would listen to a recording while you're sleeping, because while you're sleeping, your brain is still working. You can be sleeping and still be thinking about your goals. So first place I go in the morning, last place I go at night. I want your goals right in front of you constantly. If you believe in the law of attraction, you believe that what you focus on consistently, and if you think the right thoughts and feel the right feelings, it tends to be attracted into your life. So the first thing is write down what your goal is and express it as I will. When it comes to goals with my coaching clients, and if any of you have worked with me, you know that the first conversation we have is that I don't care about what you want. And I don't care about what you hope for. I don't care what your dreams are. I don't care what your wishes are. I don't care about any of that. As a human being, I care about all that stuff. But as your coach, I only care about one thing. What are you committed to? What are you absolutely positively going to do? And rather than I hope to earn $500,000 by the end of the year, or $50,000, or whatever your particular number is, and by the way, there's no right, no wrong about it. It's your personal goal. But if it's not written down as I will, then your brain is going to think, oh, I hope I make it. I want to make it. And you want to have it implanted in your brain 100%. I'm unstoppable. I'm absolutely positively committed to having it, and having it all by X date. And of course, you have to have a specific date, a by when. With financial goals, we typically go from January 1st to December 31st. But if you can work your year differently. You can also set short-term goals for your money, quarterly, half yearly, and annual. It has to be a definite date, and it has got to be written down. Whatever amount you're committed to, that's fine by me, but it's got to be written down, and you want to keep it in front of you constantly. The second thing is you have to know, why is this goal important to me? So this is where most goal setting experts and goal setting books and seminars fall flat. They just teach you how to set the goal. But if you don't know why it's important to you, if you're not very clear on what's going to happen when you achieve this goal, then you're probably not going to work very hard towards it. And you're more than likely, you're going to hit road bumps along the way, and they're going to stop you. But if you remember why you're working towards what you're working towards, you're more likely to stick with it when the going gets tough. And I'd love to tell you that in terms of goal achievement, it typically works just like this, straight up in a line, except that's not how it typically goes. It typically goes winding all over the place. There's obstacles and rocks in the road and stuff like that, boulders sometimes. And sometimes you got to go over them, through them, or around them. But when the going gets tough, you've got to know why this particular goal is important to you, your family, your loved ones, possibly even the world. The more clear you can get about why your particular goal is important to you, the greater the likelihood of you working very hard to achieve it, and especially when the going gets tough. Again, there's no right or wrong here. This is simply you saying, what's this going to do for me, and how is this going to be important to the people in my life as well as myself? Step number 3, again, if you believe in the law of attraction, which I certainly do, it talks about feeling the right feelings. Everything that we are and everything that we see are vibrating. If you want to get into a little quantum mechanics or metaphysical stuff, everything is energy, and energy is vibrating at different levels. The chair you might be sitting on right now is energy. My shirt is energy. Your body is energy. But it all looks different to us because it's all vibrating at different levels. Well, we want to figure out, what's it going to feel like? What will I actually feel like when I achieve this goal? Am I going to be ecstatic? Am I going to be, it's okay, I'm glad I did it? Will I be thrilled? Whatever it is, write down what it's going to feel like and be as clear as you possibly can. Be as colorful as you possibly can. This is not the time to write down 2 words. You're setting up your next year for success. You've got an entire year to go from I got nothing on the books to an end of the year, hopefully large amount of money for you, whatever that number is for you. And it's probably going to feel pretty darn good when you achieve that goal. But I would urge you, don't just write down, it's going to feel pretty darn good. Get Get distinct, get specific. Sorry, get specific. Dr. Rich Atkins, who's a communication expert, would probably say specific would be a better word, and it is. So, what's it going to feel like? And how's my life going to change? What's going to be different? Am I going to be driving a different car, living in a different home, hanging out with different people? Again, you want to be as descriptive as you possibly can. And this is a living document, by the way. Things might change during the year, your commitments might change, but you want to, at least when you're setting up your goal or goals for 2023, get as specific as you possibly can. By the way, I forgot to mention this, and I want to make sure that this is clear. Please set aside some time on your calendar between now and the end of the year to actually do this exercise. If you're not doing it along with me right now, or if you're just taking a stab at it now, you're going to finish it up later, put it on your calendar. Most of you have heard me talk about calendarization, which is making sure that everything is on your calendar, because stuff that's on your calendar is more likely to get done. So set aside an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to do this exercise, and do it for real. If you've been struggling, I get it. I've been in sales 48 years. It wasn't always an easy ride. I've had months, quarters, and sometimes years where it wasn't that easy. Let's make 2023 your best year yet. And I don't care how old you are, how long you've been in your career, it's never too late to have your best year yet. I've had some pretty fantastic years, and amazingly to me, last year was my best year ever, and this year beat last year. And if you're thinking the economy sucks, there's money out there. There are people out there who need what you've got. So when you achieve your goal, when you've helped enough people by supplying them with your product or your service, what's that going to feel like to you? Write it down. Step number 4, well, what will it feel like? You got to think the right thoughts. You got to feel the right feelings, but you also have to take massive action. If you're a fan of the movie or the book, The Secret, or another one is called What the Bleep Do We Know? It's all about the law of attraction. And they talk about, you got to be thinking the right thoughts. In order to achieve your goals and get stuff done and have what you want in your life, you got to think the right thoughts and feel the right feelings. But the one thing they left out, which I thought was a glaring omission, is it ain't going to happen just because you're wishing it. I could walk outside right now, stare up. Well, actually, right now, if I'm staring up into the sky, I'm going to get soaked because it's raining here in New York. There's a storm. But if I could stand outside in the rain, that's actually a perfect example. I could stand outside in the rain and go, it's not raining. I feel like it's not raining. It's right that it's not raining. It's still raining. Or I could say $1 million is going to fall out of the sky. Well, that's a lovely thought, and I would be happy if it landed on my deck, except it ain't going to happen unless some plane blows up and money comes falling out of the sky, and I don't need money that badly. I don't want anybody to die in a plane crash just because I need some money. So you want to make sure that you're taking massive action towards your goals. It ain't enough to just want it. It ain't just enough to hope for it. And it isn't even enough to be committed to it unless you take the actions needed. It's like losing weight. You can want to lose weight. You can hope you can lose weight. But unless you eat properly, drink enough water, and exercise, you're probably not going to lose weight. Got to be in action. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Next, I always suggest to my coaching clients, and well, actually, I insist with my coaching clients, what's the plan? What's the plan? I'm just going to make up some numbers. I'm going to use my friend Dr. Rich's name just because I know he's listening. So if Dr. Rich says next year I'm going to make $300,000, and I'm pretty sure he already makes 5 times that, but just let's keep him down to earth. Well, there's something that has to happen between January 1st and December 31st in order for Dr. Rich to end up with that amount of money. Write down the plan that you're going to use to get there, because there's a bunch of stuff that's going to happen. And when I say write up a business plan, I'm not talking about a business plan that you're going to take to a bank to get a loan. I'm talking about what are all the things. And I usually advise my clients, use an Excel spreadsheet for all this stuff. Write down everything you have to do. So I'm going to take a wild guess, because I know Dr. Rich, that he's going to have to do some prospecting of some type. He's got a lot of clients who love him and use him over and over, and they keep calling him, but he's got to do some kind of outreach. I know he sends out a newsletter on a monthly basis, maybe more often. And by the way, it's an excellent one. Sign up for Dr. Rich's newsletter if you don't get it already. But there's a bunch of things that he's got to do. So prospecting is probably one of them. Prospecting is one. Going out on sales calls is another. Speaking to people over video. There's a whole bunch of things that Dr. Rich is going to have to do to earn that amount of money by December 31st of 2023. Write them all down. Be as specific as you possibly can. And then Break each of those steps down into their smallest component parts. I call those baby steps. So let's just use prospecting as an example, because for most of us in sales, we have to do prospecting of one type or another if we're going to see enough prospects and help them choose to do business with us. So let's say prospecting. Well, let's break that down into what types of prospecting Dr. Rich is going to do. Maybe Dr. Rich is going to pick up the phone and make some cold calls. I don't think he does, but maybe he will. Maybe he's going to use LinkedIn and post every day or twice a week or whatever number he's going to come up with. Maybe he's also on Instagram. Maybe he's a member of a networking group or two. Maybe he's going to do some speeches to get some business. There might be a whole bunch of things under the overall heading of prospecting that Dr. Richard Atkins is going to do to find some new, very fortunate clients. And I say fortunate not for him, fortunate for them, because Dr. Rich is very good at what he does. I love when I see members in here that I actually know. So yeah, some very lucky people are going to get Dr. Rich to come in and help their teams communicate more effectively. Write each of those things down into their smallest component parts, and here's why you do that. It's difficult enough to sell and make money. Why would you want to make your job more difficult than it already is? I want to do the opposite. I want to make my sales job as easy as it can possibly be, given that sales is not an easy gig. There's a lot of pressure. There's all kinds of things that you have to be doing to be successful. So I want to make it as easy as I can. So for each of the overall topics, break them down into their smallest component parts, because it's easier to do little things. And the example I always love using is weight loss. It's hard to lose 100 pounds. I actually don't know that. I've never had to lose, I've probably lost 100 pounds over a lifetime, but it's hard to lose 100 pounds, but it's easy to lose 3. Today is Friday. I could lose 3 pounds by Sunday, maybe by tomorrow night. It's easy to do the small things. So when you're setting your goal and you've written down all the things that you need to do, break them down into their smallest component parts just to make it easier for you. And then take them and put them into chronological order. That's why I like to do it on a spreadsheet, a Google Doc or an Excel spreadsheet. Break down those steps into their smallest parts, put them into chronological order. What has to happen first? What's going to happen next? What are all the things I have to do? And then put dates next to them. When will I get started and when will it be done by? If you're going to be serious about earning a substantial amount of money, or substantially more in 2023 than you did in 2022, let's take the time to do this right. When am I going to start on this particular thing? How often am I going to do it? When am I going to get it done by? This is one of my favorite parts of goal setting. This is straight out of Tony Robbins, who I'm a big fan of. Tony says that everything we do is based on us chasing pleasure or avoiding pain. We're always trying to seek pleasure. We're doing all the things we do, like work, like date, like all the things we do. We're either looking to have fun and pleasure or to avoid the pain of not having whatever that thing is. So in terms of achieving a goal, you should be writing down what's going to happen if I don't achieve my goal. What punishment will I experience? And I urge you, make it as painful as you possibly can. And the flip side is, what joy, what pleasure am I going to experience when I actually achieve the goal? So I achieve the goal, here's the pleasure I'm going to have, and I'm going to avoid this pain. Why do we want to do this? Because once again, when the obstacles show up in your goal-setting road, when the things get in your way, when life throws stuff at you that was unexpected, you need something that's going to keep your nose to the grindstone, keep you heading towards your goal, marching step by step each and every day, week, quarter, till you get to that December 31st and you have achieved your goal. So the more painful you can make the lack of achievement of your goal, and the more pleasure you can attach to the achievement of your goal, the greater the likelihood of you doing it. And there's an example I've used over and over, and I'm pretty sure I used the same example last year, but I was once called up by an insurance broker who was referred to me. He said, Jeff, I've heard really good things about you, and I've been selling insurance for my entire career. I usually make a lot of money, average $300,000 a year, but the last couple of years have been horrible. My income is way down. I don't know what to do. I'm told you can help. Can you help me? And I said, yep, let's get working on it. I can absolutely help if you're willing to do what it takes. Now, there's a couple of things I have to tell you about this gentleman, because that will make the story clear for you. First of all, he was a rather large gentleman, kind of like not quite like the gentleman in the picture you're looking at right now, but he was an ex-college football player, 6'8". And when I first met him, he weighed close to 400 pounds. It was somewhere in the 390s. So here's a 6'8" guy, 390 pounds. Like many college athletes, they stop exercising and eating right as they get older. And of course, as you get older and older, it's harder and harder to stay in shape. And he let himself go. So there's a 6'8" guy weighing close to 400 pounds, clearly a guy not very big on exercise. The other thing you need to know about this gentleman, whose name was Steve, I'm of course not going to give you his last name, but Steve lived in Greenwich, Connecticut. This is not his actual house, but this is a house from Greenwich, Connecticut. For those of you who are listening from other places in the country who are not familiar with Greenwich, Connecticut is a rather affluent area. There are mansions in Greenwich, Connecticut. Not every house in Greenwich is a mansion, but there are some incredibly beautiful homes. There are no slums in Greenwich, Connecticut. In fact, my ex-wife's best friend lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, and she and I used to go up and visit her and her husband on a regular basis. And the friend used to love to say, yeah, we live in Greenwich, but we live in the worst house in Greenwich. Well, the worst house in Greenwich still had an indoor swimming pool. So if you get my drift, this is a fairly affluent, fancy neighborhood. And why do I tell you that? Because it's not like walking around a block in New York City when you walk around a block in Greenwich. There's a lot of property. It could be like half a mile to a mile maybe to walk around the block there. And here's why I tell you this. When we were talking about enough pain and pleasure with this gentleman, Steve, who's 6'8" and weighs almost 400 pounds and lives in this fancy neighborhood, I asked him, what pleasure, what reward are you going to give yourself when you achieve your goal? And his goal was, I got to get back to making $300,000 a year. So he committed to $300,000 in that calendar year. What's the pleasure you're going to experience? He said, Jeff, I haven't been able to take my family on a really nice vacation in the last couple of years because we just haven't had the money. So when I hit my goal, I'm going to take my family on the nicest vacation we've ever been on in our entire lives. I said, wow, that's a good reward. Very good. You'll work pretty hard to chase that. What about the pain? What are you going to do if you don't achieve your goal? And he thought for a while about it. And then he said, now remember, big fat guy doesn't like to exercise. He said to me, Jeff, if I don't achieve my goal by December 31st, in January, I will walk around the block. Like, okay, not bad. Can we make that a little more painful? I mean, I understand that would be painful for you because you don't like to exercise, but can we make it more painful? He said, how about if I walk around the block 2 times? I said, we're getting closer. I'm going to shortcut the story. We ended up with him committing that he would, and I love telling this because it was so funny at the time, he would walk around his block in January 3 times wearing nothing but a bikini and high heels. Those were my ideas, by the way. He didn't come up with the bikini and high heels. I did. So here's the thing. He's either going to take his family on the nicest vacation he's ever taken them on, or he's going to walk around his block 3 times in a bikini and high heels in January. Oh, I left something out. I was going to get to follow him around the block 3 times with a video camera. I figured either way, I'm a winner. Either I help this gentleman achieve his goal and he takes his family on a great vacation, or I'm going to have some very funny video of a big fat guy walking around the block in a bikini and high heels and a great story to tell. Well, the story is I do not have a video of Steve walking around the block because he worked very hard to avoid the pain and embarrassment of having somebody follow him around with a video camera as he walks around his neighborhood in the cold, wearing nothing but a bikini and high heels. Bravo, Steve. I hope he's still around and still okay, and not having to wear a bikini and high heels. So attach enough pain to the lack of achievement of the goal and enough pleasure to the achievement of the goal so that when the going gets tough, you keep going. There you go. I'm not sure if the Steve looks like that today, but I do love Borat. Then the next thing is, when are you going to get started? So if you've ever attended a goal-setting seminar, read a book on goal setting, talked to an expert, they all seem to say the exact same thing. Once you've set your goal, if you do not take some action towards the achievement of your goal within 72 hours, you most likely never will. The statistics show that when people set a goal and they don't take some action within 72 hours, they usually don't get started at all, which means, of course, they're not going to achieve their goal. I have a different theory. Get started right away. Make it within 24 hours. And when I work with my coaching clients, when we set their goal, What's something we can do right now while we're on this Zoom call? What's something we can do right now just to get started? And here's why. It's harder to get going than it is to keep going. It's harder to get going than it is to keep going. And the perfect example is at this time of year, people are starting to set resolutions, not goals, but resolutions. Here's what I'm going to do in the coming year. And quite often, one of those resolutions is to join a gym and get in shape. By the way, people who own gyms know that a substantial number of the people who join a gym and intend to start in January will not be there 3 weeks in. They start, they give up. So what we want to do is get started. So let's say you set a goal that you're going to join a gym and get started on January 2nd, not January 1st. You'll probably be hungover or relaxing. At least one of us will be hungover. I don't know if you drink on New Year's Eve, but one of us will be hungover. So let's say you're going to get started going to the gym on January 2nd. Well, here's what typically happens after you set a goal like that, especially if you're a guy like Steve, a big guy who hasn't, or gal who hasn't exercised in a long time. January 2nd rolls around, maybe the alarm goes off, your eyes are stuck together. It's very hard to get them open. But somehow you manage to open your eyes. You pry them open with your fingers, and there you are. And now you start thinking, where did I put my sneakers? Maybe I should go buy some new sneakers to start the new year right, too. I can't go to the gym with old sneakers, but you manage to get your rear end out of bed and you find your sneakers and maybe you pack stuff in a bag. The coffee maker, it's not on yet. So I'll wait till tomorrow. I'll set the coffee maker so that it wakes me up some coffee. But you know what? You talk yourself into it. Maybe you stop at Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or something like that. But you're thinking, you know what? Too much traffic. Maybe I should just turn around and go home. I'm going to shortcut this part of my, ladies and gentlemen. Eventually, through all that excuse and slowdown, you make it to the gym and you work out. January 2nd, boom, I'm going to get in shape this year. January 2nd, you're working out. Except it's hard. It's hard that first day, really hard. And guess what? It's hard the second day, and it's hard the third day, and it's hard the second week. But about that third week, it starts to get a little bit easier and a little bit easier, and you start to enjoy it more, and you start to see some results. So you want to get started because it's hard to get going, but it's much easier to keep going. The trick is you got to get started as quickly as you possibly can. And finally, accountability. So the book I showed you that I co-authored is called How to Be Your Own Coach. We're actually telling people, you don't need us as coaches. Here's how we would coach you. You can coach yourself. But even in a book where we say you can coach yourself to success, we still say you need an accountability partner. Or if you're a fan of South Park, an accountability buddy. Accountability buddy, that's it. One of my favorite episodes. So the more public you can make your commitment, the greater the likelihood of you achieving your goal. Certainly, you should have at least one person that you can have accountability conversations with. But I say make it as public as you possibly can. So I'm going to give you two examples. One is several years back, I formed a group called TAG, which stood for The Accountability Group. And it was made up of 4 local business people here on Long Island who I respect and myself. And here's what we did. Every Monday morning at 7 a.m., we got on a call for 25 minutes. 5 people, 5 minutes each. First call, here's how we're going to run the group, blah, blah, blah. And everybody makes commitments. We made business commitments and personal commitments. You didn't have to make personal if you didn't want to, but you could use the group for anything you want. So first call, we're just making commitments. Second call, following Monday, 7 a.m., we each have 5 minutes to say, last week I promised I would do this and I did it. Or last week I promised I would do this and I didn't do it. Well, if somebody made a promise to us and they didn't do it, we gave them a hard time because we expect people to keep their commitments to us. That's what an accountability partner is for. In fact, my coaching clients tell me, and I didn't really realize this until they started saying it, but they say the thing that they like best about working with me is not necessarily the advice I give them, helping them to close more business. It's they're being held accountable because in my coaching sessions, every session ends with you making a commitment to me, and the next session starts with me saying, "Did you do it? If you did it, I'm high-fiving you. If you didn't, we're going to have to have a serious discussion about that. Why would you want to pay me money to coach you and then not be held accountable, not do what you're going to say?" But again, you don't need to pay a coach like me to have an accountability partner. Find somebody who you respect or a couple of people who you respect and have that weekly call. Doesn't have to take a long time. But what I find is for most people, We might lie to ourselves. We might break our promise to ourselves, but we hesitate to break our promise to other people. I'm a pretty disciplined guy. I have a sign in my office that says, my will is iron and my word is law. My will is iron and my word is law. But I'd be lying to you if I told you that every promise I make to myself, I keep. And weight loss is the perfect example. So I've lost weight more than once in my life. And, somehow I always let it creep back. In fact, I'm at that point right now where I'm just about to start eating right again and making sure that I get back down to the weight where I feel the most comfortable. But the more public you can make that commitment, the greater the likelihood is that you're actually going to do it. Because when you have a bunch of other people that you're reporting to who are rooting for you and who are giving you that kick in the butt when you don't do what you need to do, you tend to be more accountable and more likely to achieve your goal. In fact, the last time I went on a mission to lose some weight, I was 36 pounds overweight, and I lost that weight, I believe it was in 19 weeks. One of the things that I did was I came across a group on Facebook called the Fat Boy Fit Club. Now, I didn't know anybody in it. I didn't know the guy who was running it at the time, although I know him now. Mark Lawrence, a terrific guy right here on Long Island. He's constantly posting videos of him all sweaty on his Peloton, giving motivational stuff. But I joined this group, and here's how I use the group. Every Friday, I would post my weight. I committed to them that I was going to lose X amount of weight by a certain date, and I committed to posting my weight publicly on Facebook in the group. Now, it's a private group, so that doesn't mean all of Facebook was going to see it, but there were 208 members when I joined, and every Friday I posted my weight. Here's what happened. There were some weeks in that time period on my weight loss journey when I didn't lose any weight, and in fact, gained some. Here's what happened, though, in the group. A few people would say, come on, Jeff, you can do it, with that little attitude. And most of them were really encouraging. All right, so you gained half a pound this week, but you'll make it up next week. Most weeks, I actually lost some weight. And there was a lot of joy and applause and all that. And when you are acknowledged for doing something, you tend to want to do it again. Being a member of the Fat Boy Fit Club, and of course, like all Facebook groups, it's a free group. Being a member of the Fat Boy Fit Club helped me achieve my goal way more easily than if I didn't have a bunch of people that I knew were going to give me a hard time if I didn't post and who were encouraging me all along the way. So if you're going to be serious about achieving your goals in 2023, either hire a coach who's going to hold you accountable, but easier, just find somebody or somebodies that you can speak with on a regular basis. By the way, my advice, do not use a family member for your accountability partner. Typically, your family members love you too much to be having the hard conversations with you when those are necessary. Like if I called my mother, who I know loves me dearly, just like I love her, and I said, Mom, you know what? I need to make more cold calls in my business. Business is a little slow. It's not, by the way, but if I had this conversation with her, Mom, business is a little slow. I need to get some cold calls done and some other things. And I'd like you to hold me accountable. So, Mom, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 40 cold calls a day for the next week. I'm going to call you up next Friday, and I'm going to tell you that I did it. And if I didn't do it, I want you to kick my rear end. And if I did do it, I want you to tell me I'm a good boy and that you love me. Well, here's what by the way, my mother would absolutely be willing to do that. She'd be happy to. In fact, she'd go, good, I get a call at least once a week now. Terrific. Thank you, Jeffrey. But here's the thing. If I called my mom and I said, Mom, I love you. By the way, last week I promised I was going to make a bunch of cold calls every day. I got busy. I didn't have a chance to do it. I'm really sorry. Here's what my mother would say. That's okay, dear. I know you tried your best. I love you. And that is who my mom is. And that's who most moms are. We need somebody who's going to hold us accountable and kick our butts when we don't do what we say we're going to do. So get an accountability partner or several accountability partners. You're going to be much more likely to achieve whatever financial goal you're setting for yourself for 2023. And that's it. That's Duke, the beach pug, my dog, sitting there saying you should have a great year. I want to wish everybody a very happy new year. Make it a happy, healthy, and prosperous one. And I will stop the share now and see if there are any questions or comments. If I can get back to where StreamYard is. Hang on. There we are. Okay, let's see. Valerie Heffron says my mic is better. Okay, obviously I'm going to have to do something about Rich says it's better. My mic works perfect. Thank you, Yolanda, for tuning in today. Donald Levine says, hey, Jeff and everyone. It's our executive recruiter. There's a very happy Don Levine with I'm assuming those aren't his young girlfriends. I'm going to assume those are his grandchildren. And Ken Walensky, the world's greatest divorce attorney, actually the world's greatest attorney, period, but certainly the best matrimonial attorney in the world, and also my best friend since high school. I love you, Ken. This is he says, great message. Thank you as always. You're so inspirational. No questions, huh? Okay, well, in that case, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being a member of the Sales Pro Network. If you are, or if you're watching on LinkedIn, thank you for following me. If there's anything I can do to help any of you at any time, if you don't have my number, just look it up. You can go to my website, jgsalespro.com. I am always happy to help salespeople. I'm not talking about making you into my client. You got a quick question about sales, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Now, I can't talk to somebody 5 hours every day and not charge you for that, but it's my pleasure to help you if I possibly can. Sorry, I'm just glancing over to see if there are any more comments. A Facebook user wants to know, what are your goals? Well, I'm not going to give you my financial goal because that's personal, but I certainly have one. But I can tell you this, I do have two goals that I am absolutely going to keep. One is I am 100% committed to finishing the comedy routine I'm working on. Some of you know I'm also a stand-up comedian, and I'm writing a set about sales. It's going to be a 30-minute set all about selling, my experiences over the years in sales. There'll be some sales advice, some general sales stuff, and I'm going to be marketing that to large corporations during the year to bring me in as a comedian at their annual or quarterly conferences. In fact, my goal is, my intention is to replace everything else I'm doing and just do stand-up sales comedy by the end of 2023. The other goal, I just lost the other one. So there's the come up with, sorry. I've mentioned more than once that I've created sales training videos. The videos are done. The videos are edited. I'm writing the workbooks now. And my goal is to have those available to the public by the end of Q1 also. And finally, I've talked about, I've asked you before if you guys are interested in some type of mastermind group, which will include accountability and private coaching, group coaching and things like that. Many of you have said you are interested. I intend to have that mastermind group up and running no later than the end of January. And my intention is really to have, at least I'll post, how it works by January 1st. So those are some of my goals. Let's see, Beth Conaway, the mom of the year, who's already, by the way, I can't remember the number, I think a third or halfway to her 2023 goal, and it's not even the end of 2022. And Valerie says, that's amazing. Well, you are amazing, Valerie. I know who that is. Valerie Heffron, maybe the biggest supporter of the Sales Pro Network. She certainly introduced lots and lots of people who become members. By the way, one of my requests for you guys is please tell somebody or somebodies who you know that would benefit from being in our group to join our group. The more members we have, the more opportunities we have to network with people, to share information, to get great advice, because that's why the Sales Pro Network is here, to elevate the profession of sales. And I intend to have it be the number one place, the number one destination for sales for everything, salespeople from all over the world. Come in, ask advice. Many of you know I've interviewed lots and lots of my competitors. They're all members of the Sales Pro Network. You come in and ask for advice. The members are going to give you advice. The coaches are going to give you advice. So that's my intention. So thank you all so much for another wonderful year together. If I can help anybody, please let me know. And please have a very happy, healthy, and prosperous 2023. And I'll end this as I end all our sessions. Please remember that sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. We won't have a live next week or the week after. I'm actually going to take off for those Fridays, but I will see you the first week in January with another great guest. Thank you all for a great year. I love you all. Have a great one. Happy New Year, everyone.